This event is in Governor DeSantis's home state of Florida. Your father was here yesterday. Other presidential contenders have been here. A lot of DeSantis influencers have said that it's a MAGA event and that's why he's not coming, despite Charlie Kirk inviting him and him declining. So why do you think he's not here?
Well, I don't think it's a MAGA event. I think it's an America First event. I think these are a lot of young patriots. But, you know, I live here. I live right up the road. And Governor DeSantis hasn't been here seemingly in months. You had flooding a couple months ago in Fort Lauderdale, and he was on his perpetual book tour. That was, you know, the 3-month-long book tour. I have 2 bestsellers, and I've never seen a book tour go that long in my life, right? So that's the problem. That's what's going on. You see, now he's almost out of money. They're letting go of staff because he has more staff than any campaign in the history of campaigns. On the early side of things, you see that small dollar donors are almost non-existent, making up 15% of his take. What was the number? Approximately 64% of the money from the super PAC is going to Jeff Rowe entities. So Jeff's, you know, a good business guy getting really rich, but none of that money is actually being used for a campaign. So I think it's a big joke. You can create a lot of personality with social media influencers, as they have done for the last 2 years, sort of de facto running against Trump. The reality is, in a Republican primary, eventually you have to put that guy on the stage. And let's just say, you know, once you get to know Ron DeSantis, you get to not like Ron DeSantis. And I've done more probably for him than any person that was not a paid employee of his campaign.
So prior to him announcing his presidential bid, a lot of conservatives, I think, kind of viewed him as the heir apparent in 2028. So why do you think he decided to challenge your father and jeopardize that?
Well, I think that's sort of the never Trump billionaire donor movement, right? The people who, you know, they say they're for America, but, you know, if they can get their widget for half a cent cheaper by getting it from China, that's their guy. You know, the people who are all in on the Ukraine war. The billionaire donor class, they don't align with America First. They're not with the hardworking blue-collar men and women that my father was fighting for. And you saw that, right? You saw the interview with Tucker Carlson on Fox. He took a Trump light, let's call it, approach on Ukraine. And then 2 days later, well, I changed my mind because I got a phone call from, you know, one of umpteen billionaire donors who want to control their president. And we've seen that this is a man that doesn't have those convictions. He'll do what it takes to please those people to move himself forward. But when he gets into office, will he actually be for the hardworking men and women, or is he just going to be the lapdog of the billionaire donor class? And I think it's pretty clear, as evidenced, A, by the small dollar donors, 15% of the entire take, right? So it's all the billionaires. That's who wants that, because they want a president they can control. They know they're not going to get that from Trump. Trump doesn't need their money. He's not going to listen to them if it's not what's right for the American people. And I think that's evidenced by everything we've seen for the last few months. And again, so you can create a lot of an image online and, you know, clip a 30-second thing and, you know, dunking on some moron local reporter and like make it seem like, oh, he's so, but, you know, you get him on stage by himself. You get him trying to copy Trump, interpersonal reaction, you realize there's almost no personality there. You just can't fake that once that guy's out on the stage. And I think you've seen that, and that's why you see the nosedive in the polls. So
sort of related to that, everybody's talking about the first RNC debate. President Trump there's rumors that he might participate, he might not. What do you think about that?
Listen, I'm torn on it. I mean, the meme general in me wants to see it because I know he'll do great. At the same time, am I going to give, you know, Asa Hutchinson polling at 0.01%, you know, Chris Christie polling at, you know, 1%, you know, a 3-hour window to basically crap all over? You know, that's literally, you're just going to go after the one guy. And that's what everyone has to do, right? You know, to be the man, you got to beat the man. So do you give them that opportunity? It doesn't seem like intelligent strategy. So I'm torn in the sense that I want to see it because I know my father will do well, just like he crushed, you know, on the CNN town hall. He's not afraid of these things, but like as a strategist, like, do you give every loser who's looking to become the, you know, conservative voice of CNBC, like, you know, you give them the chance to try to dunk on you for 3 hours? It doesn't seem all that intelligent.
Right. So, as you know, as you guys well know, there's lots of snakes in DC. Your family knows this all too well. And a lot of supporters have kind of expressed concern about some of the people perhaps hired in the first term. So what has the learning curve been there? And what would you say to those voters who still have those concerns?
Listen, I think the learning curve has been incredibly steep, right? You come in as an outsider. There's ups to that. There's a lot of advantage, right? You're not, you know, locked into the dogma, and we saw that as in getting peace deals done in the Middle East and getting a lot done in North Korea and with China and with, like, you moved a lot of needles. Now, when that comes to personnel, you may not know, right? You say, hey, I believe this guy's going to be American. No. The currency in DC is those favors. So you put someone in a position and eventually they'll put you in a position, and everyone moves themselves ahead that way. It takes a while to figure that out. Now that you have that 4 years of experience, now you know. You know who the snakes are, you know not to put them on, you've seen what they've tried to do to my father personally. You know, I think they're trying to put him away for 450 years, I believe. They tried to put me in jail for treason, a crime punishable by death. You know, once they do that, now you got a guy that actually knows and wants to do something about it, fully understands just how bad that problem is, and that's what DC fears more than anything, as evidenced by the visceral reaction you see, frankly, from both sides, meaning the Uni-Party, the Democrats and their Justice Department, as well as sort of the rhino Republicans and the weaklings.
So sort of related to that, the swamp-controlled indictments, how has that actually, I think a lot of people want to know, how has that affected your family and Trump personally?
Honestly, you would think that it would be like so much worse, and I think that's the intention, but we've been dealing with this for 7 years. I mean, again, Russia, you know, he's an agent of the Russia, it's treason, again, a crime punishable by death. Like, we've been dealing with this for a long time. Impeachment 1, impeachment 2, you actually get sort of numb to it, and I think the reaction from those people, the reaction from a corrupted DOJ, only shows the American people just how far this country has fallen. It's probably been gone for a lot longer than we believe, but it took a Trump character to challenge their authority to actually get them to fully lose their mind. You know, the Trump derangement syndrome. You see that not just in the DOJ and the prosecutions, you see that with today's Democrat Party. You know, when Trump formed, I interviewed Tim Ballard, who's sort of the subject matter of The Sound of Freedom, right, from my podcast this week. And I remember, I made 2 phone calls to the White House, basically, for stuff that I was like, hey, I think you should look at this. One was for the Pebble Mine up in Alaska, to stop that, because that could have been an environmental disaster. The other, where I said, hey, you guys should just look at this. The other was like, you should really meet this guy, Tim Ballard. So my father does, oh my God, this problem is so real. Human child sex trafficking, it's a real problem. We're gonna set up a committee to look at this. We're gonna fund it with X dollars. The left, we're not gonna do that. This is crazy. Like, you know, I know they've lost their minds, but like, are we really at a point where, like, because Trump wants to do something about child sex trafficking and stop it, they're going to do the opposite? I mean, are we really there? And it seems so. We see that with all of this stuff. We see that with the puberty bloggers and the legislation. They want to take children away from parents who don't want to let their children at the age of 3 make a life-altering decision to transition to another sex. Like, this is some insane stuff. So, you know, I think Trump's the only guy, and I'll talk about that in my speech, but I think Trump's the only guy that's really going to do that, right? You talk about the rulings you got out of the Supreme Court last week. You know, they say, oh, well, every Republican would have really appointed a conservative. Really? How many Republicans would have stuck by Kavanaugh? 0? Exactly 0. You had George W. Bush, those guys. Reagan appointed Senator Day O'Connor. Liberals, you know, these are scary things. So not everyone would have done that, and 0 would have stuck by it and had the conviction to do so. And we've seen the results of that with affirmative action, with the censorship of government. Well, you know, it goes, the student debt stuff, they're going to try to reverse that now, but they'll keep cheating and, you know, buying votes how they can. But Trump's the only guy that can actually stand up to that.
And then just quickly, the final thing, what's your reaction to the cocaine found in the White House, and how would that be different if it were?
I have a feeling that if I was within 1,000 miles of DC when cocaine was found, it would be a real problem. But I'd also be in trouble for smoking crack on video. I'd be in trouble for taking $1 billion from China. I'd be in trouble for taking no-show jobs in Ukraine, influencing our foreign policy. Like, these would be questions, rightfully so, by the way, that would be asked by our media. The silence is deafening. I had half of Twitter trying to blame me for the cocaine in the White House. I haven't been there in 3 years. I'm trying to figure that one out. But, you know, I guess I'm high energy, not really cocaine fueled like Hunter, but, you know, they blame me. But the world's most famous crackhead was there. They can't find anything in the most monitored, most secure facility in the world. I mean, come on. Oh yeah, no, it's like, if you believe that, I got a lot I could tell you.